I have a question for you today. Have you ever felt like one chapter of your life has ended, but the rest has not begun yet? What do you do when the door behind you has closed, but the door ahead of you hasn't yet opened? Have you ever found yourself in a season where you're no longer where you were or who you were, but yet you're not who you're becoming? So, this episode of Permission to Pause is about what I call the hallway. You know, the space, the in between, the season that doesn't have a name yet. When one door has clearly closed, but the next one hasn't yet opened. You're not lost exactly, but you're not quite sure where you're going either. My name is Pat Layton. I'm a speaker, an author, and a ministry coach for women who are also in life transition. So after 40 years of full-time ministry in the nonprofit world, I'm all too familiar with life's hallways. In fact, I'm just now finding my way out of a very long hallway space right now as I speak to you. You know, theologians have a name for this space. It's called the liminal space. I call it a hallway, and I've been living in mine. My pause in this season of my life was really intentional. I stepped back from this microphone, from the purpose, because I felt like God was calling me into a new season, a season of prayer and listening and sitting with some really hard questions and some ministry decisions about where God would have me go next. So I want to be clear about something that I feel about this liminal space, this hallway, that it's not failure when you're in a hallway, it's obedience. Maybe you need right now permission to pause. Maybe you need to pause like I have just recently been doing, to look around and see where you are in the hallway and just listen for what God tells you about what's coming next. You maybe even pressed play on this YouTube video today because you are in a hallway of your own. Maybe it's a career transition that you didn't see coming. Maybe it's a relationship that ended or one that has changed so much it's barely recognizable. Maybe you're just waiting and you don't know exactly what for. Maybe you press play because you've often rushed past your hallway so fast that you didn't even know you were in one. And you went straight from one season to the next or one challenge to the next without stopping to ask God what He was doing in the in-between. I've white-knuckled my way through hallways, and also recently I've begun to learn to sit down in the hallway and stay a while. It's been a hard lesson, a long, tough lesson. So today, I just want to share a little bit of my thoughts with you, as possibly you're in a liminal season, a season in between. So there's a passage in Isaiah that keeps coming back to me especially during these past few months that I've been in this hallway, and it's Isaiah 43, 18 and 19. God is speaking to His people, a people, by the way, who are very much in a hallway of their own. So He says this to them. He says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. It springs up now. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness, streams in the wasteland." So I love that question that's right in the middle of that scripture. Do you not perceive it? God is saying, I am already working. The new thing is already started, but you're so busy maybe looking backward or panicking about forward that you're missing what I'm doing right now, right here in the hallway, in that liminal space. I have personally, recently heard that message from the Lord. You know, the wilderness isn't punishment, even though we think it is. The wilderness is where the streams get made. So let me tell you a little bit about this idea of a liminal space, because I think once you have language for it, like I have, you might start seeing it like I have everywhere in your own life. The word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold, doorway. It literally refers to the strip of wood at the bottom of a door frame that you step over when you cross from one room to another. A liminal space is that threshold moment. It's the moment between what was and what it is. And here's the thing about thresholds. You can't live on them permanently. You can't stand there in the doorway. You're always moving through. You can't skip them. Every single significant transition in your life has a threshold involved. Getting married, having a baby, losing someone you love, changing careers. Maybe you're moving, graduating, retirement, or just turning a certain age, talking for a friend, and realizing that the woman who's looking back at you in the mirror has changed. So all those things have a hallway. All those stages of life have hallways in them, have thresholds. In our culture, in our hustle culture especially, is absolutely terrible. We are all terrible at hallways. We're trained to sprint from one thing to another, to fix one thing after another, to fill one activity after another, so that we don't have to feel things sometimes, so that we don't have to feel lost, so that we don't have to feel lonely, so that we do not have to feel that we have a lack of a purpose. Sometimes we post something on Instagram and it makes us look like we're already in the next room when we're really very much on the threshold, very much standing in the in-between. So that is where I paused a few months ago, where I received permission to pause, a message I had been given for a few years, but I found myself in a very, very deep pause of my life that I was very unfamiliar with. I was in the in-between, and I sensed God moving from something that was before to something that was new. And I began to understand that God does some of his most important work in the hallway. I just want you to stop for a minute and think, can you relate? Do you feel like you're in a hallway, standing on a threshold between something that was and something that might be? Are you really totally panicking a bit about the something that might be? Because you know what was, but you have no idea what might be. So think about Moses, 40 years in the wilderness. That is a very important number in my life right now, as I am celebrating this year 40 years of full-time ministry in my life. So when I think about Moses in the wilderness before the burning bush, 40 years, Joseph in a pit, in a prison, before he had a palace, and even Jesus, 40 days in the desert before he began his public ministry. A hallway is not a detour. A hallway is part of our journey. It is a natural place between seasons, between what was, between what will be. So that hallway is often referred to as a liminal space. One of the verses that I want you to think about today as we join in this conversation is Psalm 46:10. You've probably heard it. You may have it on a mug, but I want us to sit with it a little bit today like it's brand new. The verse is, "Be still and know that I am God." The Hebrew meaning of that phrase, "be still," it doesn't just mean quiet. It means let go, release your grip, stop striving. Whoa, that's been speaking to me. Literally, stop trying to hold it all together. Stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to make things happen. Be still, let go, and not try to figure out what God's doing, but just join him in that quiet place and rest in the certainty of who God is. That's what our hallways are for. That's what they're meant for. They're not meant to torture us or delay us, but to bring us into a new place where we can really release our grip on the outcome of what we're seeking or looking for and let God be God. I like to have a plan. I like to have a whiteboard. As I said, I've run a ministry for over 40 years. I like timelines. I like strategic plans. I like a clear next step. But for the past 8 years, not 40, praise the Lord, but for the past 8 years, God's been teaching me about transition times, about this in-between space, these hallway seasons. Not that he isn't doing anything. He says in this scripture, I am doing a new thing. He is doing it right now. But he's definitely been showing me about the pauses that happen between the things he's doing, the pauses that we need to experience. So one of those things I've learned about the hallway season, that transitional season, is that in between is to get coaching. I am a coach. I offer that service to many women. And I have learned many times over the years what my mentor taught me is you cannot give out what you do not have. So I seek coaching for myself as well as delivering coaching to those God brings to my path, to pray during those liminal spaces, to take small steps, careful, adjustable steps, not big, bold steps that just prove we're in control. Small steps with open hands and a listening posture. That's kind of hard for me, and maybe it's hard for you too. So what I've actually done over these past few months, as I've been in the hallway season, I put my podcast Permission to Pause on pause. But I want to be real with you, because sometimes I think when we hear somebody talking about a season of prayer or discernment, it sounds very serene, like we're floating in a peaceful fog of holiness. Well, that's not my experience, and maybe it's not yours. There have been some weeks during these past months and even years of my slowing down to listen that I perceived transition coming, and there have been weeks when I felt completely unmoored, where I questioned everything. I wondered whether ministry was still what God had for me, or whether I was just holding on to something familiar because I was afraid of a new thing. These are hard conversations. These are journal pages, question marks, prayers. These are questions that we ask God when we sit with our morning coffee and our Bible, and we genuinely ask Him. These are places where we sit with our morning coffee and our Bible and we ask God genuinely, I don't know what you're doing and I need some help. So slowly, not all at once, but slowly, God does respond when we ask those hard questions. He doesn't necessarily let us off the hook of that liminal space, but instead of performing, we begin to process. We read, we rest. We take those small steps I mentioned, just steps in a specific direction that we believe God is leading us into, but we hold those steps loosely, not big, giant decisions. They're places where we can make changes as we need to, and God meets us there. He has met me there over these past months, and I'm returning back, just like this today, to Permission to Pause with fresh vision, with fresh energy, and a new design, with refocus for this new room that I'm in. So these are those things when we move out of that liminal space, we get genuinely excited again. When we're in the space of waiting, we're not really sure what God's doing. But when we feel ourselves move into another room, we see more, we feel more, we hear Him more. There's another passage I want to leave you with today. It's Jeremiah 29, one of my favorites, one of the ones that God used to call me into ministry 40 years ago when I first surrendered my life to Him. You probably know this verse as well. It may not be on a mug, but you probably heard it, Jeremiah 29:11. Like we mentioned earlier, it's a one that could be familiar to you and that you've heard, but I'm asking you to hear it fresh. We want to realize in verse 10 of Jeremiah 29:11, God is speaking to His people who are in exile. They're literally in a hallway waiting for a promise. God says in Jeremiah 29:10, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise to bring you back. 70 years? That's a long hallway. But in verse 11, He comes through with that promise, the promises that He always gives us, that He always brings us. And this probably is the verse you've seen on a coffee mug. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Friends, this promise was spoken in the middle of a hallway, not at the end of it, not after the waiting was over, but right in the middle. God didn't say, I'll tell you the plans once you've arrived there. He said, right now, I know the plans I have for you. Right now, while you're standing in that hallway, on that threshold, in the in-between, in that liminal space, right now, God knows the plans he has for you, and they're plans for good and a future. We just have to trust the one who promises, the one who gives us the promise. So let me ask you something as I close today. Where are you right now? Are you in a hallway? Are you in a season where you don't quite have the words for it yet? Are you in a place where something has ended or is ending, but that something new hasn't fully shown itself to you yet? Or maybe, and this is just as important, maybe you're trying to sprint past that hallway, sprint past that liminal space, but God is inviting you, which is why we're drawn to the title Permission to Pause. God is inviting you into a place of pause so that you are committed to the next right thing that he's bringing you to, so that you're ready, so that you're listening, so that you're surrendered and totally trust his timing. So here's what I want you to do today. This is the takeaway from this message. 3 simple things that have helped me in my own hallway season. And I mean, they're very simple. Not a 40-day program, not a course you have to complete, not a life overhaul, just 3 things, right? Okay, so number 1 is name your hallway. Give your in-between season a name. Write it down. Say it out loud. I am in a season of transition. I am a season of waiting. I am in a season of grief. I'm in a season of redirection. I'm in a season of loss. I'm in a season of healing. There's power in naming where you are. It helps us stop the panic and realize it's not permanent, but this season has a beginning and an end. So name the season that you're in, number 1. Number 2, find one person. So this number 2 point I'm asking you to do is find at least one person, a coach, a mentor, a trusted friend in the faith, someone who'll sit with you in the hallway without rushing you through it, someone who will ask the good questions and pray over the answers with you. I have a group that I lead in a session I call Breakthrough 5. And in that Breakthrough 5, I ask the women that I'm coaching and mentoring, who are those people who are waiting in the hallway with you, who see your vision, hear your vision, but they're waiting quietly with you. So we are not designed to do ministry alone. We're not designed to do life alone. We're designed as a community and support, iron sharpening iron. So number 2, find a person. Number 3, take a small step, not a huge leap, not a dramatic pivot. This is really, those are anxiety driven, ambition driven, dressed in spiritual cloaks. But really, those big giant leaps, those dramatic pivots can easily take us out of God's plan. So I'm encouraging you to take the passion that's in your heart, or that desire that's in your heart, because God says he places desires in our heart. So trust the desire of your heart and take a small, quiet, prayerful step that you can take today to adjust tomorrow if God redirects. Small steps in the right direction are still progress, and they keep you moving by faith without outrunning the voice of God. So those little small steps, even the ones that require pivot, and I do a good bit of that, especially in this last season of taking some steps that I felt like God was leading me to, but I'd take a little step and find out, that might not be it. But that's okay. I'm taking my steps by faith. I'm taking my steps in an attitude of prayer and surrender. I'm going to the Lord every day, to his word, to say, this is what I'm doing. This doesn't feel right. Lord, please direct me in the way that I should go, which he promises in his word. So name it, find your person or your people, take a small step. That's it. That's your whole assignment for this Permission to Pause. So I'm so grateful to be back in this space with you as I am walking out And I've learned there's always walking out over one threshold into a new room, and you're very likely going to have another threshold coming at you and going into another room. But I am grateful for right now to be in this space with you. And I know that God's placed me here. I've missed doing Permission to Pause on my podcast. This has been prayed over, waited on, intentionally shaped. This is not shallow ground. This is not a show that I'm doing just out of habit. This is a ministry that God paused to a degree to give me clarity and a sense of purpose for this season and this new room that He's drawn me into. That's what the liminal space does. That's what the hallway does. When we let it, if we don't waste it, it prepares us. So friend, wherever you are today in the hustle or the hallway or somewhere in between, you have permission to pause, to breathe, to meet with God right here, right now, in the middle of it all. This episode is shadowed on my podcast, Permission to Pause, my 4th year of Permission to Pause. It's been delayed since last Christmas, as well as this new experiment on YouTube. So your follows or your likes or your shares are going to tell me, is this a room I was supposed to walk into, or am I supposed to pivot and do something different? I have learned to be patient and to trust God, as I know that He will lead me into the place that I should go. He is good. He is a good, good Father. And He says in Proverbs, when you roll your works upon the Lord, He causes your thoughts to agree with His will. So I trust that. I trust that God will adjust my thoughts according to His will. So I truly hope this message has resonated with you and that you'll subscribe, follow along with me as I step into this new doorway of YouTube. I look forward to our next meeting together. I'd love to have comments or visits to my website to find out a little bit more about what I'm doing and who I am, and if you can trust me in this space to talk to you about these kinds of things. So let me know how this episode resonates with you, and I hope to see you here again next time. Blessings.